Batman Arkham Knight was really enjoyable, but it's easily my least favorite game in the trilogy, and from what I can tell, I'm not alone in that sentiment. But why? Well, this video is an explanation as to why Batman Arkham Knight was a disappointment. Alright, here's my first question. What happened to the challenge maps? Back in Arkham City, there were 6 combat and 6 predator sections, each with 2 enemy configurations. For the predator sections, each of the 2 configurations had sets of challenges that were all unique to the 4 playable characters. Plus, there were a dozen challenge room campaigns that added little quirks like timers, tougher enemies, no counter prompts, the list goes on. Tackling that entire challenge mode was a gigantic, immensely satisfying challenge. But in Arkham Knight, you can only play as Batman in 4 combat scenarios, 4 Predator scenarios, and some Batmobile stuff. What the hell happened? And about that Batmobile stuff, there's actually a lot of it. There's Batmobile Racing, Batmobile Combat, and even Batmobile Stealth. And to Rocksteady's credit, it can all be really fun. But it's also all rather simplistic. With racing, you drive fast. With the stealth, you drive up from behind and shoot. Even the combat has only like 5 attack options, and 3 of them have to be charged up, so you'll be spending most of the encounters just dodging and shooting repeatedly whilst holding down the machine gun trigger. It's pretty repetitive and basic. Compare that to the hand-to-hand combat, where you're rolling in attack options. 5 different quickfire gadgets with differing impacts, beatdowns, aerial attacks, ultra stuns, ground takedowns, and the 4 special moves, all of which have notably different impacts and uses. A standard instant takedown, a multi-takedown where if you're quick enough you can nail multiple down thugs at the same time, a disarm that's great for guns, tasers, and shields, and Square Enix do this really cool bat swarm that's great for crowd control. Wait, that was just Arkham City, my bad. In Arkham Knight, that really useful move is gone. Now, Square Enix initiate various contextual takedowns, so if a mook is highlighted in blue, he can be slammed into a lamp or shot by the Batmobile and be instantly eliminated. It looks cool enough, but the practical effect of permanently incapacitating the guy is literally the same thing as the circle and triangle instant takedown. Ditto for the team takedowns. I don't care how cool they are. They accomplish the same thing as the simple instant takedown which has been available since Arkham Asylum, so it's not mechanically interesting or new. Oh, and Square Enix can also pick up and throw projectiles, but isn't that what a batarang is for? So these additions to the combat are more like redundancies. Yeah, they're great to show in a trailer, but with that lost bat swarm, for all practical purposes, the combat has less depth than its predecessor. And yeah, it's a nitpick, the combat still plays great. I'd choose Arkham City's combat over this in a heartbeat, but still great. The reason that this change bothers me is because of what it signals. Now the combat is flashier, but it has less practical variety, and this style over substance transition between the 2 games is actually pretty indicative of how the rest of the mechanics play out. Most notably, the Predator gameplay. Now, admittedly, I knew something was up when I saw those fear takedowns which automatically eliminate at least 3 henchmen of your choosing at the press of a button. These make the game too easy, and they ruin the tension of the Predator sections. But what really pisses me off is, well... It was already possible to take on a handful of enemies head-on in previous games. If you knew what you were doing, you could do exactly what the fear takedowns now do for you. The only difference is that it used to require some actual skill. And that's not my only beef with these Predator sections. The sonic batarang, which was a really useful lure, has been replaced by a voice synthesizer that straight up orders henchmen to go where you want. This makes things easier than they should be. Again, And why can't I Batclaw or Batarang mooks off ledges? This was one of my favorite tactics in Arkham City, and now it's been removed. Come on, Rocksteady, you can't make me do something a dozen times during the Riddler's Revenge challenge maps, and then expect me not to notice when you take the ability away. Speaking of challenge maps, remember the newly nerfed challenge mode I brought up earlier? Yeah, well, it wasn't just the quantity of challenges that were reduced, it was the quality as well. Pretty much all the Predator challenges are pretty simple and easy to pull off. I missed those punishingly difficult challenges that were so satisfying to overcome through skill and brain power, and they also encouraged the player to use other gadgets like the line launcher, freeze grenades, remote control battering. None of that is called for in Arkham Knight at all. They might as well not even be here. The shift in level design does not help. The Predator sections in Arkham City were often very claustrophobic, meaning the player had to be a lot more cautious and cunning, and it was harder to retreat when things went wrong. On the other hand, Arkham Knight has incredibly spacious levels, so it's basically a game of waiting for the henchmen to spread out and just nailing them no problem. And why are these silent takedowns performable from so far away now? I mean, seriously, you don't have to be anywhere close to the guy anymore, you just jump right to him. And now you can do a silent takedown from grates and ledges and from above now? Well, gee, if all of your options are so easy to pull off and all result in a completely silent takedown, doesn't that make them all homogeneous? In short, the depth and strategy of the Predator sections is really reduced, meaning instead of experimenting with a host of options, the player is just going to run around silent takedowning everyone, with a fear takedown thrown in every now and then for good measure. Everything is simpler now, and that's my problem with Batman Arkham Knight. Arkham City had so much enthusiasm for its mechanical depth, whilst Arkham Knight begrudgingly carries over some of it. And why? Why was this done? I mean, I can understand a game that fails to innovate and is more of the same, but Arkham Knight takes several steps back, and it's pretty obvious stuff, i.e. Rocksteady willfully made these omissions. To me, the big reason is that Batmobile, also known as the final piece of the ultimate Batman experience.
Sefton, what inspired you to add the Batmobile to the Arkham series?
Well, really, we just felt that it was the one thing that we hadn't had a chance to do, was to really deliver the keys to this amazing vehicle, to give the player the freedom of Gotham City as Batman gliding above the streets, but in this awesome, incredible, famous vehicle, give everyone the chance to drive this and really complete that whole Batman experience.
And, you know, maybe if they had just left the Batmobile to traversing the city in the occasional chase section, it would have been just that. But, as evidenced by the aforementioned challenges, Rocksteady instead opted to make the Batmobile the most prevalent part of this game. Everywhere you look, there's Batmobile action, and, more offensively, the vast majority of this game's puzzles center on the thing. Too often the solution to a problem is to simply shoot out turrets or tanks, or to navigate the thing across rooftops, or on ramps and seesaws, or awkwardly dangle it off a ledge to blow walls up. These replace all of the fun traversal puzzles to be had in the previous games, where the player actually used their utility belts. As a result, gadgets like the line launcher and remote control batarang are almost completely ignored. I get the feeling Rocksteady only added them because they felt obligated to do so. So while the Batmobile was intended to feel like just another gadget on the utility belt, it ended up replacing the utility belt instead. And with it, it changed the entire vibe of the game. Instead of this game having a variety of options for puzzles and traversal, the Batmobile boosts in and blows everything up. Just like how the Predator sections no longer care about all the different subtle ways you can take your opponents out when you can simply plow right in with a fear takedown. And just like the Batmobile racing lacks subtlety and the Batmobile combat lacks variety in favor of bombastic brute force, so every notable addition to the ground combat is redundantly spectacle based instead of actually being meaningful. Do you see what's happened here? Before this game came out, Rocksteady talked itself blue in the face about how they wanted to make the Batmobile feel like an extension of Batman rather than a stupid gimmick. And that's an admirable goal, and they did accomplish it. Batman and the Batmobile basically feel like one and the same. But that's just the problem. I mean, yes, I'm sure the Batmobile was painstakingly designed to be as versatile and nimble as possible in order to feel more like the Dark Knight, but it's also clear that Batman himself was altered to be more like the Batmobile. Apart from a stupid suit redesign, he was made to employ more brute force, and the need for mechanical nuance was greatly reduced. As a result, Batman Arkham Knight feels completely different from its predecessors. In this game, you're less of a calculating badass with dozens of tricks up your sleeve, and more of a brute with a tank. Gone are moments like this. Now there's this.
Let's hear you scream.
Previously, this was the highly regarded stealth boss fight.
So you wish to use magnets against me? I do not think so. Where did you?
Now, it's this.
You won't get away!
That's why this game is a disappointment. Not just because some parts with the Batmobile were stupid, or because the side missions were repetitive, or the story was underwhelming. Granted, those issues didn't help, but the core issue with this game, and the reason I believe it has failed to resonate with a lot of people, is that it fails to expand upon, or even retain, what made Arkham City so special in favor of a gimmicky tank.
So this is like, this is a, visually this is a big departure for the series, but it's something you had to do, I think, to make it feel different.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're always aiming to do is, sounds a bit crazy in a sense, but we're not really in the business of making sequels. We wanted to put in as much new stuff in this game as we'd put in the previous games, that we really wanted it to feel, even if you've played the previous games, this is a completely new, fresh experience.
See, guys, I'm not making this stuff up. Even Rocksteady knew they were going in a different direction. If you preferred that direction, that's totally cool. Hell, I still really enjoyed the game, and it's cool to hear that Rocksteady is apparently going to be releasing a challenge mode soon. But I'll still take Arkham City over this game any day. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that little pessimistic spiel of mine, even if you did expect me to release a 25-minute epic on why Arkham Knight was the greatest thing since sliced bread, or even just a full and balanced summation of the game. Ah well, I doubt this is the only bit of coverage I'll be doing for Arkham Knight, particularly with all the DLC coming out. Anyway, if my next video is delayed like a lot of my recent offerings have been, rest assured I'm still not going anywhere. Well, except to college, but you get the idea. In the meantime, you all take care.